I, 34M, never thought I'd be one of those guys posting here, the ones whose lives suddenly collapse because the person they trusted most turned out to be a stranger. But here we are. I need advice, clarity, or maybe just a place to let this out. Samantha, 32F, and I have been married for 8 years. We met in college, built a life from scratch, and went through everything together, the broke years, the career grind, the late-night ramen dinners when we couldn't afford takeout. She used to laugh at everything, that loud, contagious laugh that filled every corner of our home. But somewhere along the way, it faded. At first, I thought it was just stress. Her job got demanding, and she started saying things like, "You don't understand what it's like to be in my position." Then came the late-night, client calls, the perfume that didn't smell like the one she wore for years, the phone that never left her hand, even when she went to the bathroom. I'd ask simple questions like, "Hey, who are you talking to?" and she'd snap back with, "Why do you always have to be so controlling?" Or worse, laugh and roll her eyes like I'd just accused her of robbing a bank. I told myself it was just a rough patch. Every couple has them, right? You fight, you forgive, you move on. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. I could feel it, like the air had shifted. She'd leave the house dressed to kill for a meeting at 9 p.m., and when I'd raise an eyebrow, she'd go, "God, David, stop being paranoid. Not every woman cheats just because she wants to look good." Still, I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. Because the alternative, that my wife was lying straight to my face, was too painful to accept. But denial only lasts so long. And one night, the truth started flashing right in front of me, literally. It happened on a quiet Thursday night, the kind that used to be our movie and pizza evenings before she started working late. Samantha was in the shower, humming to herself like nothing in the world was wrong. Her phone buzzed on the counter, lighting up the kitchen with a soft glow. I swear, I didn't mean to snoop. I really didn't. But when you've been gaslit for months, when your gut screams something's off, curiosity stops feeling like betrayal. It feels like survival. The screen lit up again. A preview popped up. "See you at the pier, red heart." I froze. My stomach dropped. The pier? We hadn't been there in months. It used to be our place, sunset walks, bad takeout, laughter under the old lamps. And now, it was a meeting spot for her and someone else. She stepped out of the bathroom minutes later, towel around her hair, smiling like she hadn't just stabbed me through the chest. "Everything okay?" she asked, pretending not to notice my face. "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." She dressed up that night, not her usual business blazer, but a light dress, perfume, heels. "Quick dinner with a client," she said, grabbing her keys. "Don't wait up, it might be late." The words barely left her lips before she turned away. I stood there, numb, watching her leave like a stranger walking out of my life. Something in me snapped. I grabbed my jacket, waited 5 minutes, and followed. Her car pulled out of the driveway and disappeared under the orange streetlights. I kept a few cars behind, my heart hammering. The closer we got to the coast, the louder that hammering grew. And then I saw it, her car, parked near the old wooden pier, waves crashing softly in the distance. I parked in the shadows. My hands shook. Every instinct told me to go home, to unsee, to unknow. But I needed the truth, even if it burned. She stepped out of the car and ran. Ran into his arms, some tall guy in a leather jacket, his hands already around her waist. Her laugh echoed across the water, the same laugh I hadn't heard in months. And that's when it hit me, love hadn't died. She'd just given it to someone else. I don't even remember stepping out of the car, just the sound of my shoes crunching on gravel and Samantha's laughter cutting through the night. The man's hand was on her waist when she turned, eyes going wide like she'd seen a ghost. "David? What the hell are you doing here?" She shouted, instantly defensive, like I was the one sneaking around. I should ask you that, I said, voice trembling but steady enough. You told me you had a client dinner. Her face twisted. I did. He's a client, she snapped, pointing at the guy, who looked like he wanted to evaporate into the ocean. The guy muttered something like, Sam, maybe we should just, but she cut him off fast. Don't. Just don't. Then she turned back to me, eyes flashing. You followed me? Are you serious right now? This is insane, David. You're obsessed. This is why I don't tell you things, because you always make everything a drama. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because the gaslighting was textbook. You kissed him, Sam. I saw it. You don't kiss your clients. She crossed her arms, smirking now. Oh my God, it was a friendly hug. Not everything's cheating. Maybe if you actually paid attention to me, I wouldn't need to get comfort elsewhere. That line hit like a slap. The audacity of it, turning her betrayal into my fault. Comfort? I asked quietly. You lied to me. 4 months. Stop being so dramatic, she scoffed. We've been distant for a while. You've been cold. I didn't know how to tell you. So you decided to cheat instead? Her eyes narrowed, voice dropping to a hiss. You're twisting everything. You always do this. You're impossible to talk to. You don't see me anymore. That last part, I'd heard it before. Every time she wanted to justify something selfish, she'd play the victim. The other guy finally spoke up. Maybe we should go, she spun on him, snarling, shut up, Jason. Jason. The name made my stomach turn. So this wasn't a fling. This was real. She looked back at me, her voice suddenly soft. David, please. Let's just go home and talk. You're upset. You're not thinking straight. But I was thinking straight, for the first time in months. I'm done talking, I said, stepping back. You've already said enough. As I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of her face, not guilt, not regret. Just anger. Anger that she'd been caught. And that told me everything I needed to know. I barely slept that night. I kept replaying the scene in my head, her laugh, the hug that wasn't a hug, the way she looked more annoyed than ashamed. By the time dawn crept through the blinds, I was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her untouched coffee mug. When Samantha finally walked in, she acted like nothing had happened. No apology, no explanation, just, you're up early. I didn't answer. She sighed dramatically, dropped her purse on the counter, and said, So, are we gonna talk about your little stalker moment last night? I almost choked. My stalker moment? Yes, David, she said, rubbing her temples like she was the victim of a massive injustice. You followed me. You embarrassed me in front of someone I work with. Do you realize how unprofessional that looked? Unprofessional? I repeated, stunned. You kissed him. She scoffed. Oh my God, you're still on that? It was just a friendly moment, and you blew it way out of proportion. Jason's going through a divorce, he's been depressed, and I was comforting him. Comforting. Always the same word. Like betrayal could be disguised as kindness. You lied to me, I said quietly. You said it was a client dinner. She crossed her arms. Because I knew how you'd react. You always twist things. I didn't want another fight. Sam, you're not making sense. You don't sneak out and meet a client at a pier in heels and perfume. Her expression hardened. You know what? Maybe if you paid attention to me once in a while, I wouldn't need to find comfort anywhere else. There it was, the knife twist. Turn the blame, make me the villain. I did pay attention, I said, voice shaking. You just stopped caring. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic again. I'm trying to fix things, and you're just sitting there sulking like a child. Fix things. She hadn't even apologized, but somehow she was the hero now. She reached out, placed a hand on my shoulder. Let's just forget last night, okay? I'll cut back on work events. We'll have a date night or something. It was surreal. She was offering date night after being caught in another man's arms. That's when I realized, she wasn't sorry. She was scared, not of losing me, but of losing control. I'm not forgetting it, I said, standing up. And I'm not pretending nothing happened. You lied, you cheated, and now you're trying to gaslight me into believing I imagined it. She glared, her voice turning icy. Fine. If you want to throw everything away over one misunderstanding, that's on you. I'm not begging. And she didn't. She grabbed her purse, slammed the door, and left me sitting there, heartbroken, angry, and finally awake. After she slammed the door, silence filled the house, heavy, suffocating, like the air after a storm that never really ends. I sat there for a long time, replaying her words, her tone, the way she twisted everything into my fault. And yet, a small part of me still clung to denial. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'd misread it. Maybe she really was just comforting a friend. But then I remembered something, the way she'd flinched when I reached for her phone the week before. She'd snatched it away so fast you'd think it was a live grenade. And now, that same phone sat charging quietly on the counter. For the first time in months, I didn't hesitate. I opened it. She'd changed her passcode. That was confirmation enough. You don't lock someone out unless you've got something to hide. So I waited, calmly, methodically, until she fell asleep that night. She came home late, smelling like perfume and excuses, muttering something about overtime paperwork. Her voice was distant, rehearsed. She slipped into bed without a word, phone clutched in her hand even in sleep. I stared at the ceiling until I heard her breathing slow, steady. Then I gently eased the phone from her fingers. She didn't stir. My hands were shaking, heart pounding so loud I thought it might wake her. I tried her old passcode, her birthday, and by some miracle, it worked. What I found made my blood run cold. The first thing I saw was a chat thread labeled Work Client. A heart emoji next to his name. Jason. I opened it. Jason, can't stop thinking about last night. You're my peace. Samantha, shoo, don't say that here. I told him it's just business trips. He's so gullible, lol. Jason, you sure he doesn't suspect? Samantha, he's clueless. As long as I act annoyed when he asks, he backs off. Jason, your evil face with tears of joy, Samantha, nah, just smart winking face. I had to put the phone down. My hands were trembling too hard to scroll. The words felt like knives, not just the betrayal, but the mockery. She'd made me the punchline of their private joke. When I finally forced myself to keep reading, it got worse. Photos from hotel rooms. Receipts for dinners I thought were with clients. Even one message where she told him. I'll tell him we're separating soon. Just need to play nice a little longer. Separating? She'd already made her exit plan, I just hadn't gotten the memo. That's when something inside me broke. It wasn't just sadness anymore, it was clarity. The woman I loved wasn't lost. She was gone. The next morning, I waited for her at the kitchen table again. She came downstairs in her robe, hair tied back, phone in hand, scrolling like nothing was wrong. I slid her phone across the table. You might want to delete those messages before your work client sees them. She froze. Her face drained of color, then hardened in seconds. You went through my phone. I did. And now I know everything. David, she sighed, pressing her temples like I was the problem again. This is exactly why I didn't want to tell you. You can't handle the truth without turning it into a soap opera. I almost laughed. The truth? You lied to my face for months. You called me paranoid while sneaking off with him. She smirked, actually smirked. So what? You think you're perfect? You've been distant, cold, buried in your little routines. I needed something more. Something exciting. And Jason gets me in ways you never did. That stung, but I didn't let it show. So why didn't you just leave me? Because I wasn't ready. She snapped. I wanted to make sure I'd be okay first. God, David, it's called being smart. I'm not gonna wreck my life before I know I have something better. The honesty was brutal, and chilling. It wasn't love she'd wanted to save. It was convenience. I stood up slowly, trying to steady my breath. You don't have to wreck your life. I'll make it easy for you. You're free. Her eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm done. No more lies. No more pretending. I'm calling a lawyer. She laughed, that same fake, dismissive laugh. You're not serious. You can't even make decisions without overthinking them. You'll calm down. But I didn't. Not this time. I left her standing there, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline, and for the first time in months, the air around me felt lighter. Painful, yes. But lighter. Because I finally knew the truth, and I wasn't afraid of it anymore. The morning after I told her I was done, I expected silence. Maybe denial. Maybe that cold, stubborn wall she loved to hide behind. But instead, Samantha switched tactics, fast. When I came downstairs, she was sitting at the kitchen table, eyes red, tissues scattered around. I almost didn't recognize her, not because of the tears, but because they looked performed. David, she whispered, voice trembling, I made a mistake. A mistake. That word. Like she'd accidentally spilled wine on the carpet, not burned down our entire life. I said nothing. Just poured myself a coffee and leaned against the counter. She kept going, wiping her eyes like a soap opera audition. It wasn't serious. I was lonely, and Jason, he just listened, you know. You used to listen. I stayed quiet, because I'd learned that silence, to her, was more terrifying than anger. Finally, I said, you mocked me in those texts. You told him I was clueless. Her eyes darted away. I didn't mean it. I didn't know how to tell him no without hurting him. By flirting? By lying? By sleeping with him? She flinched but recovered quickly. Okay, yes, I messed up. But do you really want to throw away 8 years over this? You're overreacting. People work through worse. People who are sorry work through worse, I said. You're just sorry you got caught. Her mask cracked. The softness vanished. You think you're so perfect, huh? You act like I'm a monster, but you haven't been exactly easy to love, David. You're boring, predictable, obsessed with routines. You stopped making me feel alive. There it was again, her favorite weapon, blame. Maybe I got boring, I admitted quietly. But I was loyal. I was steady. I was building a life with you, not chasing adrenaline. She stood, pacing, words tumbling out fast. You don't get it. He made me feel wanted. He texted me good morning, asked about my day. I cut her off. So did I. You just stopped caring. She froze. For a second, the act slipped, and the truth flashed in her eyes, not love, not regret, but fear. Fear of losing control. Then came the next act, desperation. She reached for me, grabbing my hand. Please, don't do this. We can fix it. I'll block him, delete everything. I'll go to therapy, whatever you want. Just, don't leave me. It would have worked, once. The tears, the trembling voice, the promises that meant nothing. But I'd seen behind the curtain now. You can't fix what you don't regret, I said softly, pulling my hand away. She stared, eyes narrowing. So that's it? You're walking out? After everything I gave you? I almost laughed. You didn't give me anything, Sam. You took my trust, my peace, my time. And I let you. That ends now. She crossed her arms, defiant again. You'll come crawling back. You always do. You can't be alone. I smiled sadly. Maybe. But I'd rather be alone than lied to. I grabbed my jacket, my keys, and the folder that had been sitting on the table, bank statements, photos, printed messages. Proof of everything I'd ignored. As I reached the door, she shouted, "You're throwing away your marriage over one mistake." I turned back, met her eyes. No, Sam. You threw it away piece by piece. I'm just finally walking out of the ruins. The door closed behind me, and for the first time in years, I felt the weight lift. The silence wasn't empty anymore, it was peaceful. Honest. I drove with no destination, just the hum of the road and the soft echo of my heartbeat. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just breathed. Because sometimes healing doesn't begin with forgiveness. It begins with leaving. The first night after leaving, I checked into a small roadside inn. Nothing fancy, just a clean bed, a cheap lamp, and silence. I thought it would feel empty, maybe even lonely. But instead, there was this strange, quiet relief. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally exhaled. For the first time in a long while, no one was lying to me. No one was twisting words, no sudden mood swings, no walking on eggshells. Just peace. But peace never lasts long when you've walked away from a manipulator. The next morning, my phone lit up with messages from Samantha. Samantha, David, please, can we talk? I can't sleep. Samantha, I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. You're my husband. Samantha, you're really going to destroy everything over some texts. I didn't even mean them. Samantha, if you loved me, you'd fight for us. I stared at the screen, the same way I'd once stared at her, hoping to find truth in a sea of lies. But all I saw was strategy. Guilt-tripping, rewriting the story, emotional bait. I didn't respond. An hour later, another text came in, this time sharper. You're acting childish. Running away doesn't solve anything. That's when it hit me, she wasn't apologizing. She was negotiating control. I muted the conversation. Over the next few days, the messages changed tones like a playlist on shuffle: sorrow, rage, nostalgia, manipulation. One night she wrote. Do you remember our first date? How nervous you were. You said you'd never stop trying. What happened to that promise? And for a second, it worked. I almost replied. Almost caved. Because when you've loved someone that long, even poison can taste familiar. But then I pictured her at the pier, her smile, her hand in another man's, and the illusion shattered. I stayed strong. I focused on small victories, making breakfast for one, taking walks at sunset, sitting in silence without feeling judged. The air felt different, lighter, honest. I started reading again, something I'd given up when every night became a guessing game. Then came the call from her sister. David, she said gently, Sam's a mess. She hasn't eaten. She says you just left without warning. I sighed. She told you I left without warning? She said you misunderstood something, that you're overreacting. Of course she did. Samantha always needed an audience. I didn't misunderstand anything, I said. I saw the truth with my own eyes. Her sister was silent for a moment, then sighed. I'm sorry. I believe you. I wish she'd stop lying. You deserved better. It was strange, hearing someone else finally say the words I'd been too scared to believe. You deserved better. That night, Samantha showed up at my door. I didn't even have to look through the peephole, I knew that knock. Sharp, impatient, rhythmic. I opened the door just enough to meet her eyes. She looked tired, mascara smudged, wearing one of my old sweatshirts, the one she used to steal on lazy Sundays. David, please. I can't do this. I miss you, she whispered, voice shaking. I'll go to therapy. I'll tell Jason it's over. I already blocked him. Did you block him before or after I read your messages? I asked. She blinked, hesitating. Does it matter? I'm trying. You're trying because you lost control. Not because you love me. Her lip trembled. That's not true. It is, I said quietly. You don't miss me, Sam. You missed the version of me that believed your lies. Her eyes hardened again. You're throwing everything away. You'll regret this. Nobody's going to love you the way I did. I smiled sadly. God, I hope not. She stood there a moment longer, waiting for me to crack, to pull her in, to say it's fine, to start over. But I didn't. Eventually, she turned and walked away, her silhouette shrinking into the dim hallway light. I closed the door, leaned against it, and exhaled. No more apologies without accountability. No more recycled promises. No more living with someone who turned love into leverage. It was over. And for the first time, that word didn't scare me. It set me free. The days after she walked away were strange. Not peaceful, not yet, but quieter in a way that felt honest. The house didn't hum with tension anymore. No slammed doors. No muttered insults disguised as jokes. No walking on eggshells just to keep the peace. Still, the silence had weight. The kind that reminded me how much space someone can take up even after they're gone. I kept catching myself doing things out of habit, setting 2 plates at breakfast, glancing at my phone before bed expecting a message, leaving a light on in the hallway because she always said the dark made her uneasy. But this time, the silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like recovery. I started therapy. Something I'd always brushed off with a, I'm fine, I can handle it. Turns out, I couldn't. Not alone. My therapist, a calm woman named Marissa with a voice like warm tea, asked me simple questions that hit harder than arguments ever did. When did you first stop recognizing yourself? What did love mean to you, and what did you settle for instead? At first, I had no answers. Just memories. The first time Samantha laughed at me in public. The first time she called me too sensitive. The first time I apologized for something I didn't do, just to keep her calm. Marissa helped me see it wasn't just one betrayal at the pier. It was a slow erosion, one lie, one insult, one manipulation at a time. And I'd mistaken endurance for devotion. So, I began rebuilding, not the marriage, but myself. I dusted off my old guitar, fingers rusty but eager. I started running again, feeling my lungs burn in the best way, not from stress, but from effort. I reached out to old friends I'd pushed away because she didn't like them. Funny how abusers isolate you with polite excuses. My buddy Chris invited me out one evening, nothing fancy, just a burger and a beer. It felt good, normal. He didn't tiptoe around me or ask the wrong questions. He just said, "Glad to have you back, man," and clinked his glass against mine. I smiled, a real one. Glad to be back. At night, when the memories tried to creep in, I wrote them down. Every lie. Every manipulation. Every moment I'd ignored my instincts. Seeing it on paper hurt, but it also set me free. Because you can't heal what you refuse to name. Samantha texted a few more times that week. The tone shifted again. Samantha, I hope you're happy. I gave you everything. Samantha, I'm seeing someone new. He appreciates me. Samantha, you'll regret letting me go. I didn't reply. Not out of anger, but because I finally understood. Every message wasn't love, it was bait. And I wasn't biting anymore. Instead, I focused on me, the man I'd buried under her moods and manipulations. The one who used to dream, laugh, plan. I booked a solo trip to the mountains. Nothing long, just a few days to breathe air that wasn't heavy with memories. Standing on that trail, wind brushing my face, I realized something: freedom doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "You're safe now." And in that quiet, I smiled. Because I finally was. It had been 3 months since I walked out, 3 months of therapy, quiet mornings, and the slow, stubborn process of learning how to exist without lies humming beneath every word. I'd started sleeping better. Smiling more. I wasn't fixed, healing isn't linear, but I was finally living again. So when her name lit up my phone one afternoon, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not longing. Just calm. Like a storm cloud passing far overhead. The message read: Samantha, I really need to talk to you. Please. It's important. I stared at it for a while, thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to delete it instantly. Another part, the old, soft part, whispered, what if it's serious? What if she's in trouble? So I replied, carefully. What's going on? She answered almost immediately. Can we meet? Just one coffee. I need closure. That word, closure, it's bait in disguise. Still, I agreed. Maybe because I wanted my own closure too. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. The same one where we used to sit on Sundays, arguing over pastries and pretending everything was fine. She walked in wearing a pale coat and that familiar scent, the one that used to mean home. For a second, nostalgia punched through me like a ghost. But then I saw her eyes, glossy, tired, calculating, and the illusion broke. Hey, she said softly, sliding into the seat across from me. You look good. Thanks, I said. You too. She smiled faintly, stirring her coffee like it held courage. I've been thinking a lot. About us. About everything. I nodded, waiting. I made mistakes, she said. Big ones. And I hurt you, I know that. But I've been going to therapy, too. I'm trying to change. I miss you, David. The old me would have melted right there, clung to the promise of change, convinced myself this time would be different. But not anymore. I'm glad you're getting help, I said gently. Truly. But this isn't something we can patch. Her expression flickered, surprise, then frustration. You're just going to throw away 8 years. People make mistakes. You didn't make a mistake, I said quietly. You made choices. Repeatedly. You lied, you mocked me, you cheated, and you blamed me for all of it. She looked down, biting her lip. I was scared. I didn't want to lose you. You already had, I said. You just didn't notice until I walked away. She blinked back tears, maybe real, maybe not. I'm different now. I swear. Jason's gone. I told him it's over. I want us back. I studied her face, the pleading eyes, the trembling hands. Once upon a time, I would have done anything to protect her from pain. But I finally understood something crucial: love without respect is just captivity. You don't want us back, I said. You want control back. And I'm not stepping into that cage again. Her voice rose, sharp and wounded. You think you're perfect now? You think you'll find someone better? No, I said simply. But I'll find someone honest. She froze, staring at me, maybe expecting me to break, to reach across the table and take it all back. But I didn't. After a long silence, she whispered, I thought you'd wait for me. I did, I said, standing up. You just didn't notice, because you were too busy waiting for someone else. She said my name, soft and desperate, but I'd already turned toward the door. As I stepped into the sunlight, I realized something. Closure isn't a conversation. It's a decision. And mine was final. It's strange how endings can look nothing like you imagined. I used to think if my marriage ended, it would be dramatic, shouting, tears, maybe even begging. But in the end, it was quiet. Just two people sitting in a cafe, one clinging to the past, the other finally ready to let go. Walking out that day, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel broken either. I felt clear. Like fog lifting after a long storm. In the months that followed, I kept healing, not through grand gestures, but small, ordinary acts. Cooking dinner for one without sadness. Sleeping soundly without wondering what secret buzzed on her phone. Laughing with friends and realizing I didn't have to apologize for it. Therapy helped me understand what I'd been too blinded by love to see. Samantha didn't just cheat with another man, she cheated with every lie, every insult disguised as a joke, every, "you're too sensitive," when I called out her cruelty. Her betrayal wasn't a single act. It was a pattern. And I kept mistaking manipulation for passion, chaos for connection. But here's the hardest truth, I enabled it. Not by deserving it, no one deserves to be betrayed, but by accepting less than I was worth. I confused loyalty with silence. I thought loving someone meant carrying all their darkness, even when they used it to dim my light. Now, I know better. Love isn't supposed to make you question your worth. It's not supposed to feel like walking through a minefield, praying today won't be the day it all explodes. Real love, healthy love, feels like peace. Like safety. Like breathing without fear. If you're reading this and you're where I once was, second-guessing yourself, doubting what your heart already knows, let me tell you something, you're not crazy. You're not paranoid. If you feel it, there's a reason. Trust that quiet voice inside you. It's not weakness. It's wisdom. Leaving didn't destroy me. It saved me. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't fighting for love, it's walking away when it stops fighting for you. These days, I don't look back with bitterness. I don't wish her pain. I hope she finds what she's looking for, even if it was never me. Because I finally found what I needed all along, peace, truth, and the version of myself I thought I'd lost. So yeah, Samantha's laughter used to fill the house. But now, the echo that lingers isn't hers. It's mine, steady, honest, and free. Thanks for reading, Reddit. If you've ever been through something like this, I see you. You're stronger than you think. And healing? It doesn't come all at once. But one day, you'll wake up, look around, and realize the storm passed. You survived. And that's enough. Red Heart Adhesive Bandage. End of story.